Chapter 8 Underhand Chop. Nick went up to the crater rim with the young bird folk and watched them practice flying. They spread their wings and glided into the hollow. Now and then one would try a cautious flap, but this usually led to a tumble on landing. They got rather bad-tempered. Nick wandered away. If he had to live here, he thought, he would build himself a hang glider and show them they weren't the only ones who could fly. Jimmy Jaspers came out of the hall. He climbed the rim and set off towards the river. Nick wondered what he was up to. He ran to catch up. Jimmy moved along quickly, hopping like a goat from rock to rock. He bellowed a song about a girl who had loved a sailor and had been left in the lurch. When Nick caught up, he had stopped at a thicket of thorn trees. "What do you reckon, Yonker? Reckon I'll find a good straight one in there." "What for?" Nick asked. "A handle for me axe." He showed Nick an axe head. "Carson tempered her yesterday, sharpened her this morning. Feel that edge. Will go easy, you'll have your finger off." He rolled up his sleeve and shaved some hairs off his arm. When I catches up with Odo Kling, I'll slice him up for bacon." He took out his clasp knife and hacked down one of the thorn trees and trimmed off its branches. "I reckon this'll do. She's good tough wood." Nick sat with him on a rock while he shaped and smoothed a handle. The old man spat on his hands. He worked easily and fast. His knife was chisel, plane, and sandpaper. By lunchtime, the axe handle was ready. He fitted it to the axe head and hammered in a wedge with a piece of rock. He whirled it round his head. "I reckon she's right. You ain't seen me use an axe, have you, Yonker? I won the underhand chop 6 years running at the Fells Bush A&P show. Let's get up here and cut 'em pretty Polly's a bit of firewood." He worked all afternoon in the crater. Birdfolk flew in with logs to keep him supplied. By sundown, he had a stack as high as his head. "I reckon I'm in trim. Bring on your Ojo Kling." A birdman landed with a flurry of wings. "They are coming, Wise One and Wanderer and Susan." Nick peered into the east, where the distant mountains stood out in the dying sun. In a moment, he saw 2 dots moving on the pink and yellow sky. He felt as if he were in an airport, waiting for a plane to come in from Australia. Then the strangeness of things rushed in on him and he almost cried out with disbelief. This was Morning Hall on the planet O. Those dots were bird folk. Susan was flying home with the half, coming to save the world. He grasped Jimmy Jaspers by the arm. "Easy, son," the old man said. "You got to roll with the punches." Wise One came down in a flat glide and landed by the entrance of the hall. Wanderer dropped more steeply and put Susan's chair down light as a cushion. Susan climbed out. Her cheeks were flushed with cold and she looked tired. Wise One faced the crater. She spread her wings, though they shook with weariness. "Morning Hall," she cried. "Your guardianship is over. Susan Ferris has claimed the half." The birdfolk clapped their wings softly, gravely. They seemed a little sad. Nick ran up to the entrance. Brand and Breeze came running. The council gathered round. Nick gave Susan a hug. "Can I see?" But she shook her head. She had her fist shut tightly. Her knuckles were white. No, I can't show anyone." "Why?" Because. "Leave her," Redwing said, and Breeze, peering at her anxiously, said, "Do not trouble her now. She needs to rest." The bird woman and the woodlander led her away. Nick moped about. He felt left out of things. He sat with Brand and Jimmy by a fire and ate his meal. He worried about Susan. What would happen if she got sick? Later in the evening, Breeze knelt beside him. Susan would like to see you. What happened? Is she all right? She will tell you. Do not keep her talking. Nick went back through the hall, along the passage, and into Redwing's room. It was lit with flames burning in pans of oil. Susan was lying on the bed, with coverings up to her chin. The light was dull, but he saw the flush was gone from her cheeks. She smiled at him. I'm sorry, Nick. I'm not usually like this. What happened? They took me to a cave on the mountain. It was high up, like a kingfisher's nest in a bank. No one had been there since Freeman Wells. I got the half. Can I see? It was lying on a shelf at the back of the cave. Just lying there. I picked it up. And Nick, I thought I was going to break into little pieces. Something went right through me. It was like electricity. I felt every part of me, my heart and my muscles and bones, my eyeballs and teeth and toenails. Oh, it was horrible. They all separated and then somehow they all came back together. But I felt I was different. I was changed. Something was added to me. Does that make sense? No. You have to feel it yourself. I'm the only one who can ever feel it. I suppose the half was just saying it knew me. Is that why you won't show it to anyone? Yes, it's too important. Nick, it's light as a wishbone, but when I picked it up, it felt like lead. I felt I was picking up half of everybody in the world. I wouldn't even show Redwing or Breeze. It's not like a new bangle or hair clip, everybody going, ooh and ah. They wouldn't do that. I know, I can't be fair, but I'll show it to you. You're the only one. She drew her fist out from the coverings. She held it out to him and opened it. The half lay on her palm. Nick looked at it and pulled a face. It doesn't look much. Like Woolworth's plastic jewellery, he thought, or something made of perspex and polished up. Its shape was interesting, a teardrop, curved like a moon. He saw how the other half would fit into it and make a circle, and its colour was rather nice, like weak lemon tea. There was a tiny spot in it, like a tea leaf, dark red, almost black. Have you put it on your birthmark? Is it alive? No, I'm frightened it would take all the good out of me. I'm going to wait till I've got them both, till I'm at the Mother Stone. If you get there. I will, I know it now. She closed her fist and pushed it under the blankets. I'm tired. I want to go to sleep. Good night, Nick. He sat by the fire with Brand and Breeze and Jimmy, listening to the bird folk sing tales of their ancestors. He felt he would be happy to stay here forever, then knew that he could never belong. This was the last night he would spend with the bird folk. He wondered if, years from now, his name and Susan's and Jimmy Jasper's would be remembered in Morning Hall. Perhaps there would be a song, The Quest of Susan Ferris and Nicholas Quinn. He liked the sound of that. In the morning, their little band gathered in the entrance of the hall. Nobody made speeches. One by one, the council members folded Susan in their wings. Redwing gave her a belt made of beaten goat hide. She had stayed up into the night making it, working bird folk motifs along its length and colouring them with dye. 2 small pouches were fixed on it, one on each side of the buckle. For the halves, Susan. Susan belted it round her waist under her cloak. She put the half in the right-hand pouch. Nick glimpsed its amber gleam. Carry our strength in your heart, Wise One said. The bird folk of Morning Hall rose in the air. This time they made no shield, but flew informally, swooping and weaving casually in the air. All through the morning they followed the band down the yellow plains and along the river. Then one by one they dropped away and flew back to Morning Hall or the mountains. Soon only Redwing and Wanderer were left, and 5 young bird folk who carried the packs. Jimmy Jaspers would not give up his axe. Apart from that, they travelled light and made good time. At nightfall, the bird folk came dropping out of the sky and laid the gear in a camping place Wanderer had chosen. Nick and Susan slept deeply after their day's march. At the end of the second day, they were opposite the pass. Nick did not look forward to crossing the snow. Won't Odo Kling have some guards there? Yes, Bran said. A company of guards. They are down below the snow line on the other side. Wanderer flew high and spotted them. Well, they'll stop us going over, Nick said. We're not going that way, and we're not going round the end of the range. There are guards there too. Well, where then? Wanderer knows a secret trail. It lies a day's march south. He does not know what lies on the other side, but it must come out somewhere in Wildwood. Once there, we are safe. We can find the stone folk. Susan drew her blanket round herself. Where's the blood cat? Wanderer does not know. He has not seen the cat or Odo Kling. Kling, Jimmy Jaspers said. He's mine. You leave Kling to me. Next day they followed a river on the plains. The mountain rose sheer on their right, with rocky cliffs and giant slides of shingle. Streams ran out of gorges or tumbled down in summer waterfalls. In the afternoon they began to climb. The way was broken, barred by streams and boulders. Redwing flew low over them, pointing out the easier paths. They came onto a plateau grown over with mountain grass and thorn trees. On the other side, the mountain wall made an unbroken line. They trudged towards it and got there by nightfall, scratched and weary. Wanderer and the young bird folk had made a fire. They had food cooking and hot drinks steaming in mugs. That night they did not fly back to Morning Hall, but slept about the campfire, standing balanced on their wingtips. Nick lay in his blankets watching them. They were like tall statues made of wood, like guardian angels. It made him cold to think that tomorrow they would fly away forever. In the morning, Wanderer flew into the mountains, climbing steadily where the wall was less steep. Redwing watched him anxiously. The morning sun gleamed on his wings. He goes too far. He is near the mark of forbidding. Ah, no! Wanderer seemed to stagger in his flight, but he managed to turn. With his wings half closed, he made a lumpy glide back down to them. He skidded on the ground and tumbled over. Redwing rushed to him and covered him with her wings. He lay groaning for a moment. I went too close. It took my wings like a cramp. He managed to climb to his feet. The way is open. I could see no further, but it is clear to the top. What lies beyond, I cannot say. He looked at Brand. It is a hard way. You must have care. I shall show you where it begins. No, Redwing said. Yes, if we can ask this child, Susan Ferris, to go into the dark land and face Otis Claw, then I can carry Brand a while, even though my wings are tearing off. He launched himself and hovered over Brand. Brand took hold of his legs. He is lighter than Susan Ferris, Wanderer joked. He rose laboriously into the air and flapped away to the mountains, with Brand clinging beneath. They circled there, climbing and gliding for several minutes. 2 of the young bird folk flew close, keeping an anxious watch on them. Everyone gets a ride but me, Nick grumbled. Wanderer and Brand came back and landed. It is a hard way, Brand said, but the only way. We must start at once and be at the top by nightfall. I do not want to spend more than one night on the mountains. The young bird folk flew the packs as far up the trail as they could go. Then they hovered over the party, making their farewells, and flew away north. We must go now, Redwing said. Remember us, Susan Ferris. We will remember you. She embraced her in her wings. She embraced Nick and Brand and Breeze. And feathers'll make me sneeze, Jimmy Jaspers protested, but he could not escape. Keep your axe sharp, Jimmy, Wanderer said. Then he too embraced Susan. Go well, he said simply. He kissed her on the brow. Then he went to the edge of the camp, sprang into the air, and beat away north. Redwing ran and jumped and followed him. Goodbye, she called in a long fading cry. Nick and Susan watched until they vanished in the sky. We'll never see them again, Nick said. No, Susan said. She felt inside her cloak, inside her t-shirt, and drew out the feather streaked with red. All morning as they climbed, she held it in her hand. Brand led them up a gorge, slanting into the mountains. It climbed in a series of broken steps. A stream of thawed snow water ran down darkly in the shadows. Several times they had to wade through it. Their legs grew cold as ice. When the gorge opened out, thorn trees blocked it. Jimmy Jaspers cleared the way with his axe. Towards midday, they came to the place where the bird folk had left their packs. Climbing was harder after that. At midday, Brand made a fire of thorn branches and heated food in a pan. He handed Susan a drink of warmed goat's milk. Do you think you can keep going? I'm all right. Will we get to the top tonight? With luck. How are you, Nick? Oh, fitter than I've ever been, Nick groaned. The gorge went on, narrow as a hallway. Its slanting sides blocked out the sun. Once Brand had to haul them up the side of a waterfall using his rope. The rocks were slippery with ice. Lips of snow jutted out above them. An hour till sundown, Brand said. He sounded anxious. But soon the floor of the gorge levelled out. The water lay in still pools, filmed with ice. They travelled miles, it seemed, on a kind of switchback, scrambling up, stumbling down. The shade began to thicken. Then Brand made a clicking sound with his tongue. Do you notice anything? Nick looked about. The water at his feet was moving again. The stream's running the opposite way. We must be going down. We're over the top, Brand said. This gorge runs like a cut through the middle of the range. Tomorrow you'll see wild wood. Jimmy Jaspers had packed wood for a fire. They warmed food and dried their shoes and slept curled in their blankets, shivering in the frozen air. I've no worse, Jimmy said. I've had me clothes froze so stiff, I was like a knight in bloody armour. In the morning, Brand found a way to the top of the gorge. He led them up one by one, and there was wildwood, sombre green in its morning shade. It ran so tightly up under the mountains it seemed they would be able to take 2 steps through the snow and float down into it. I know where we are, Brand said. The stream runs down to the Mirror Cliffs. By midday, we will find the Lizard Path. Tonight, we will sleep in wildwood. Wanderer's Path has saved us many days. The gorge fell steeply to a plateau covered with bush. They went down easily and turned away as the stream flowed south. We will see it again where it falls down the Mirror Cliffs. We call it Mountain's Grief. But we must take a quicker way. There is a cleft that will take us down to the path. He led them through the forest. Breeze kept darting off to pick leaves and berries and brought them back for Nick and Susan to taste. Jimmy Jaspers would have nothing to do with them. His pack was stuffed with dried meat. The land dropped sharply into the cleft. They clambered down through the mossy rocks and tall fern trees and came out on the Lizard Path, halfway between the plateau and wildwood. The Mirror Cliffs stretched away to the north and south. They were smooth as ice, and they folded in soft curves like a sheet of paper set on edge. Here and there, tongues of bush ran down and licked the path. Sheer Cliff is taller, but these are just as steep. The path will take us to the southern end. You must walk carefully. Even woodlanders have been known to fall. They ate lunch at the foot of the cleft. Then Susan lay back to rest. The sun was overhead. She felt warm for the first time in 2 days. For a moment or two she drifted off to sleep. Fragments of dream passed through her mind, dreams of warmth, of beds and fires and feathers. She smiled and murmured happily. Then she was flying high up by the sun, cosy in her nest. And then it came swooping down close to the ground over the yellow plains, over the tops of trees, and she came to a cave and circled close to its mouth, which drew her like a magnet. The way the yellow smoke had drawn her into the mine shaft. The pressure on her head was terrible. Suddenly, the blood cat leapt out, screaming. Susan woke with a cry. She sat up, looking wildly about. "Susan," Breeze cried. "What is it? What's the matter?" "I heard the blood cat." "You were dreaming, child." No, I heard it. There. That's it again. The blood cat's coming." "I didn't hear anything," Nick said. Brand moved out onto the path. "Quiet," he said. They were all still. They held their breath. The silence was like iron. Moment after moment it went on. Then Brand knelt on the path. "Breeze?" She went to his side and looked where he was pointing. "Yes," she said. "They have been this way." "Come," Brand called. "We must leave at once." "What is it?" Nick said. "Halfmen have been this way." "With the blood cat. I can smell its scent," Breeze said. "They've been patrolling the lizard path. Odo Kling must have guessed we would come this way. Their spoor leads north. We will go south." "I heard the blood cat," Susan said. "No, child, that was in your mind. You were dreaming." "She weren't," Jimmy Jaspers said. "I can see the bloody thing." They looked where he was pointing. The mirror cliffs had turned dull silver in the sun. The path ran along it like a thread, dividing it neatly in two. 3 folds of the cliff away, black figures were moving on the thread. They were shapeless as ink blots in their cloaks, except for Odo Kling. Odo Kling was upright as a nail. He strained back on the leash, keeping the blood-red, eager cat in check. It writhed along the lizard path, sinuous as a lizard. It raised its head and gave its unearthly scream. "It has your scent," Brand cried. "Quickly, Breeze, get her on the path. I will take the rear." "No, you won't," Jimmy Jaspers said. "I got me axe. No pussies scaring me. I'm going to have a whack at Odo Kling." "No," Brand cried. "You're crazy. The cat is like nothing you have ever seen. It will have you torn in half before you can blink." "You reckon?" "I got a trick or two." But he hefted his pack and started after the others. Brand brought up the rear. They ran desperately, Breeze leading, then Susan and Nick. The path was only a foot pace wide. Wild wood yawned at their feet. A wrong step would send them spinning down. "Too slow!" Brand yelled. "Throw away your packs!" Me, Jimmy Jaspers said. "And my brush that Bert Feather gave me," Susan cried. "Throw them! The blood cat will be on us." There was no space on the path to put them down. They dropped them over the edge and they fell, turning lazily down towards the distant tree tops. "Move!" Brand yelled. They ran on. Jimmy had his axe, and Susan her feather, and the goat leather belt with the half inside. That was all that was left of Morning Hall. She could not believe the nightmare had started again. That chase up the path to the living hill, now this. It was as if nothing had happened between that safe time with the bird folk, only a dream. The blood cat was screaming continuously. She felt as if she wanted to leap off the path and fall forever down to the safety of Wildwood. How close are they? About 5 minutes back, maybe 10. Nick, we're going to get caught. We'll have to fight. But he knew it would be impossible. How could they fight on a path as narrow as this? One wrong step and you'd need a parachute. The half-men would get them, one by one. Brand and Jimmy first. That axe would be no good. There was no room to swing it. Then him, then Breeze. He saw them falling with their arms outspread. He seemed to hear a wailing scream, fading away to nothing. What would it be like to be dead? And Susan would be left, alone with Odo Kling and his half-men, and the cat. Keep moving! We'll get away! They came round a bulge in the cliff. It was like running in space. 2 folds back, the half-men slid from view. The blood cat screaming thinned and died. A steady, dull thunder filled the air. It was the noise of a waterfall. It was the mountain's grief. It came down from the cliff top, hundreds of metres above, dropping straight in a groove cut in the cliff, and fell away, broken and foaming, into Wildwood. A wooden footbridge ran across it, 6 metres out from the water. They ran through misty spray, ran on the slippery planks. Nick looked down. The moving water drew him into the forest. It seemed miles below. He felt his stomach falling. Brand gripped his arm and shoved him on. Jimmy! Brand cried. It was no more than a thin bird cry in the thundering water. Nick looked back. Jimmy had stopped on the far side of the bridge. He had taken a grip on his axe. Jimmy! Nick screamed. You can't fight them! But Jimmy grinned. He gave his shoulders a flex. He yelled something that was torn away by the water. Stop him, Brand! Susan and Breeze had come back. The 4 stood helplessly on the narrow path. We'll have to leave him. No! Then Nick laughed. He's not going to fight. He's going to chop the bridge down. Jimmy swung his axe. With a couple of blows, he loosened the first 2 planks of the deck and sent them spinning away. They had been fixed with spikes to 2 slender beams, the trunks of trees, that ran the full length of the bridge. Jimmy jumped onto one of the trunks and set his feet apart. He was agile as a monkey. The water roared at his back. Wildwood lay hundreds of metres below. He took no notice. He swung his axe and brought it down between his feet. It bit deeply into the log. He loosened it, swung again. The underhand chop! Nick yelled. He told me he could do it. He'll get marooned over there. No, he won't. He'll get back. Chips the size of dinner plates sprang in the air. Jimmy hopped neatly, turning about. He faced the waterfall and chopped into the other side of the log. But he did not cut right through. He left a centimetre of wood holding the beam. He stepped across and started on the other. Hurry, Jimmy! Nick screamed. The half-men and the blood cat had come round the cliff, only 1 fold away. They would be here in a moment. Brand loosened his knife in its sheath, but Jimmy chopped precisely without hurry. He jumped about and swung his axe again. Chips of wood jumped out and fell away. Again he left the beam secured by a centimetre of wood. He ran along the bridge. Give me some room. Jimmy, you're marvellous. Told you I knowed a trick or 2. Get back or you have no head. He smashed the planks, stepped onto the log. This time he chopped right through. The bridge made a shrieking sound and sagged a little on its outer side. One more. Jimmy yelled. He stepped onto the last log. The wood was yellow as cheese and seemed to cut as easily. Half a dozen blows. A deep V appeared on one side. Jimmy hopped. He swung again, just as Odo Kling and the cat appeared round the bulge in the cliff. "Jimmy, hurry! Hurry!" Jimmy chopped. 1, 2, 3, 4 blows. He left a centimetre of wood again, and the bridge stayed, groaning in its place. He jumped back onto the path. There, one more whack and she's down. "Jimmy, do it! Do it!" Jimmy grinned. He leaned on his axe. He was sweating. "I reckon I broke me record. Wish they could have seen me at Fell's Bush." "Jimmy!" Kling was a dozen steps away. The blood cat was straining on its leash. "I will," Jimmy said, "when that Kling gets on." He lifted his axe and faced the bridge, grinning. "G'day, Kling," he yelled. "Reckon you caught us this time." But Kling stopped. His red eyes glared at the bridge, then at Jimmy. The blood cat leaned forward on its leash. Kling struck it on its snout with his whip, and it sank dog-like at his feet, but kept its glowing eyes fixed on Susan. Then Kling beckoned behind him, where his dozen half-men stood in file. The path was wider at both ends of the bridge. The half-men slipped by him. Kling pointed, and the man raised his knife, gave a soundless yell, and jumped the gap onto the planks. The beams held. He came across the slippery bridge, quick as an eel in water. Jimmy met him easily. He stood on the path and swung his axe in a way that seemed almost careless, and sent the man spinning away into space with a single blow. He seemed to float down slowly to the forest, his knife point still winking in the sun. "Come on, Kling," Jimmy yelled. "It's you I want, not your office boys." Kling shook his whip in the air. He raised his foot and seemed as if he would jump onto the bridge. But again he stopped. He snarled back at his men and pulled the blood cat aside. They ran by him, their red eyes shining with hatred, and jumped one by one onto the bridge and pulled across. "Jimmy!" Susan screamed. "Yeah, okay," Jimmy said. "Here we go." The first man was only a pace from him when the axe came down. It sliced clean as a knife through the centimetre of timber, and from the other side of the bridge came a sound like the crack of a stock whip. The beams broke, the bridge fell. It went nose first and seemed to ride down the smoking water like a raft. The half-men turned about it like a cluster of black flies. Down, down they went, falling into wildwood, disappearing into the mist of water over the treetops. Jimmy and Odo Kling faced each other across the mountain's grief. Jimmy laughed. "I reckon that's one up to me, Kling. Now why don't you come across? Don't you know how to fly?" Kling crouched. His iron and leather glittered in the sun. For a moment it seemed he would jump. Hatred radiated from him. It made Susan shrink back against Breeze. Then Kling reached down to the blood cat and snapped the leash from its collar. The cat came to its feet and stood there trembling. It leaned out over the gap. "Kill!" Kling shrieked. "Kill!" The sound came sharp as knives through the roaring water. "Run!" Brand cried. "He's released the cat!" "It can't jump over that," Nick said. "The gap was 15 metres at least." "A cat can jump anything. Run! Take Susan, run!" The cat turned. It raced back along the path. It glowed like lava pouring from a mountain. Then it spun about, striking sparks with its claws on the stone. It started to run. It came up to the gap with the speed and beautiful ease of a charging tiger. Its eyes blinded them. It was like looking into a furnace. On all that run, they never shifted from Susan, cowering against Breeze, a dozen steps behind Brand and Jimmy Jaspers. Jimmy gave a yell. He sent Brand staggering back with a shove. "Gimme some room!" He raised his axe above his head. The cat reached Odo Kling. It came to the gap. It launched itself on a gigantic leap and came like fire through the smoking air. Its mouth was stretched back in a snarl and its claws curved out like knives. The length of that leap took Jimmy by surprise. The cat went over him, a metre above his head, coming down in an arc that would end at Susan's throat. Even so, Jimmy had time to move. He stepped one pace back and swung his axe in a fierce upward cut. He had meant to take the cat on its neck, but the blow came down behind its shoulders. It was enough. The axe sank deeply in between the ribs. Then it was ripped away from Jimmy's hands. It clanged on the cliff and leapt out over the forest. And the blood cat? Jimmy had not struck it a mortal blow, but the force of it pushed the animal off course, pushed it out over empty air. Susan felt blood spatter her face. She saw the snarling mask of the cat flash by her eyes, saw the fire-red body twist and a hind paw lash at her, and felt the point of a claw nick her in the throat. Then the cat was gone. It vanished over the edge of the path and out of their sight as if it had become invisible. All that was left was a wailing cry, fading like a siren. No one moved. Then Jimmy Jaspers pushed himself away from the cliff face where he had tumbled. He went to the edge of the fall and faced Odo Kling. He took his clasp knife from his pocket and opened the blade. "I still got me knife, Kling. Come on over. I'll even tie one hand behind me back." And that is the end of chapter 8.